The following feature has been rated R by the Motion Picture Association of America.
Hi there, my little droogies.
You are on the mission of the 21st Century Planet Smashers. Dark Star.
You've heard about it. You've read about it. Now, finally, you can see it.
It will be a dangerous trip, and I don't know what we're likely to encounter out there. But someone has got to save the Earth from the treacherous clutches of that evil ray.
Sure. Why not? We'll give it a try.
The missile has just been launched. It is heading towards the Cyan-Sibirsk oil complex.
There have been films about earthquakes, airplane disasters, and blazing infernos. But there has never been anything like the Devil's Rain.
And loving pets into killers.
Listen to me, Hatcher. You gotta tell him Silent Breed is...
Monty Python and the Holy Grail 有许多滑稽的。
If you do not open this door, we shall take this castle by force.
It gets up and kills. The people it kills get up and kill.
I've got a premature detonation on dome number 2, and I've got an explosion in the main cargo deck. Now, please advise me immediately.
Give me Barker.
Bendel decker to Cable 1, what's happening?
We see bodies. Lots of them.
These people were cut down in mid-stride.
Everybody's dead! You did it!
I think I've lost my faith.
Is there someone inside you?
Sometimes.
Who is it?
Turn around, Allison. Look behind you.
The 23rd century will be here sooner than you think.
Hey, Laurie, did you hear what happened last night? It was in the apartment right above us. My dad almost saw the guy.
Oh, God. Have mercy on this poor, unfortunate creature.
This is Willard, and these are his friends, Ben and Socrates.
Pretty well, little brother. Pretty well.
Computer to bomb number 20. Return to the bomb bay immediately.
But I have received the operational signal.
Through the dangerous outer reaches of intergalactic space, as he joins forces with the mysterious professor and the lovely Dale Arder.
I stand before the Savior. He and the Blessed Mary are my witnesses. I'm innocent.
His face.
That wasn't your father.
What's his face? If one of thy members offend thee, cut it off. Cut it off!
Guardian has retaliated.
Retaliated?
It may be too late, sir.
Oh, my God.
They must be destroyed on sight.
When there is no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth.
We are down to the line, folks. We are down to the line.
Pardon me, folks. I just had to barf into this official Mark of the Devil barf bag. From 1970, of course, the film Mark of the Devil. As it says on the back, this vomit bag, and then the price of one admission, will enable you to see the first film rated V for violence. Mark of the Devil. Positively the most horrifying film ever made. See it at a theater near you. There you go, folks. So I'm going to put this up on eBay for sale. One slightly used Mark of the Devil barf bag. Okay? That's what I'm talking about right now. No, I'm not. It's going to remain in my humble collection. But this segues nicely into today's video, which is all about 1970s sci-fi horror and exploitation films. Some people may have seen the Friday Night Live show, and that was part one of the 1970s sci-fi horror and exploitation film series, of which there will probably be 4 or 5 more parts, because it's the 1970s, folks, and it's a huge era for genre films. So Friday night, a few hours after the live show ended, the video was pulled from the channel. Yes, it was banned. It was removed from my channel, the Horror Mike channel. And for one little reason, which I will get into very soon. Thus, the reason why I am doing the video today, because this is going to be an encapsulation of what the show was on Friday night. Part one of the 1970s sci-fi horror and exploitation films. But first, let me tell you about August 2nd, the Friday night show for August 2nd, folks. Part of that show is going to be, once again, the 1970s. But part of it is also going to be the second installment of the monthly Sci-Fi Horror Book of the Month Club. And this time we are tackling John W. Campbell's Frozen Hell, a.k.a. Who Goes There, a.k.a. The Thing. As you may well be aware, in the 1950s, Howard Hawks produced The Thing from Another World. In 1982, John Carpenter made The Thing. And in 2011, there was the prequel to The Thing called The Thing. Those films are based upon the original novella, Who Goes There? Well, it turns out decades later, 45 more pages of the original manuscript were found, and that became Frozen Hell. We're going to talk about Who Goes There and Frozen Hell and how it compares to all of the film versions of the novella. I think you will be surprised at some of the changes and some of the things that remain the same from the 1930s when the novella was originally written. So we're going to have a lot of fun. Hope to see you then. Okay, folks, on with the show. Well, we start off with the 1971 film, which is an adaptation of Edgar Allan Poe's Murders in the Rue Morgue. Now, this is the film that starred Jason Robards, Herbert Lom, Christine Kaufman. Michael Dunn is also in this film. So it's got a great cast. And as the description reads, as a theater troupe prepares for a gruesome production in Paris, a madman with an axe to grind arrives and begins spilling blood backstage. The one thing about this film is that it is what I would call a very loose adaptation of the Edgar Allan Poe story, 1. 2, it's kind of a boring adaptation. I found it pretty flat and forgettable. Costumes, scenery, everything like that is fine. It's just a sluggishly paced film, and I think Jason Robards may have been miscast. Next up, we have Drive-In Massacre from 1976. I'm going to have to play a short sequence here for you.
Okay, come on. Will you cut it out? Let me get... Come on, Alan. Sweetheart. Come on. I just want to hear this. Come on. I just want to hear something. Papa, not nice. Oh, you stop tickling me. Come on. Get in here. Alan. Come on. Come on. it 4 times. I want to hear it. Alan, come on. Will you let me hear it? Alan, come on. I want to hear it. Alan. Alan.
Hi there, babe. Hey, why don't you and me find someplace real?
So there you have it, folks. Drive-In Massacre. It's got two things that are vital, especially to the latter part of the 1970s, kind of moving into the 80s with slasher films. You could call this a proto-slasher film. You know, it's this guy going around killing people at a drive-in, which is the other part of the film, which is kind of key, the drive-in and drive-in culture. Now, we're going to be talking about that during this series of the 1970s sci-fi horror and exploitation films. Shiver of the Vampires is the reason that my live show got banned and removed late Friday night after the show, because I showed part of the trailer during my presentation, and in that trailer there's about 5 seconds of a woman's bare breasts that are shown. Yeah, so that's why my video was removed from my channel. Shiver of the Vampires, folks, 1971, genre lean. It turns erotic, violent, and mystical. This film follows newlyweds who travel to an ancient chateau in France, only to find it inhabited by vampires. Directed by Jean Rollin. And the thing about Jean Rollin is that he makes some really great-looking films. I love the cinematography, the lighting. It's skillful, folks. A lot of the scenes within his films are really well done. I would call it cinematic art. Unfortunately, YouTube didn't see it that way. So that's why they struck my entire show from my channel. But I do want to point out one curious thing. On YouTube, you can watch the full 4-minute trailer of Shiver of the Vampires with all of the nudity. A lot more nudity than I showed on my show Friday night. And it's still up there. It's been up there for over a year. And YouTube, for some reason, thinks that's okay. Well, they, of course, completely removed my show. That's the reason why I'm doing an encapsulation of the Friday night show today for you guys, because, of course, I can't leave out part 1 of the 1970s sci-fi horror and exploitation films. On another note, I also have my channel on Rumble. If you go to Rumble, just look up, do a search for Horror Mike, and you will immediately find my channel. And if you would like to, you can subscribe there. Okay? I'm just giving you a heads up. In any case, back to the films, folks. And we have The Evil up next from 1978, starring Richard Crenna and Victor Buono. A psychologist has plans to turn an abandoned mansion into a drug rehab center, but the demonic spirits inside aren't throwing out the welcome mat. Starring Richard Crenna, Joanna Pettit, Andrew Prine, and Victor Buono. And I just so happen to have a trailer from The Evil for you.
Nobody ever suspected what ancient terror slept beneath the Vargas house.
Stories get started about any old house that's been vacant for a while.
What kind of stories?
Oh, just stories. Just old wives' tales.
Look out!
Terror that turns laughter into screams. And loving pets into killers. For the house belongs to the evil.
There you go, folks. That's just part of the trailer for The Evil. It's worth a watch, and it is on Zitubi. The next film and the film after that, I think, are worth seeing a couple of times, and I've seen them definitely 2 or 3 times a piece. That is the 1971 film Willard, followed up by the sequel Ben. I remember seeing Ben in the theater. It may have been at the drive-in. I'm not quite sure, but I never saw Willard at that time. It was only until after I'd seen Ben. A socially maladjusted boy uses his bizarre ability to communicate with rats to exact violent revenge against his cruel tormentors. With Bruce Davison in the starring role as Willard, Sandra Locke, Elsa Lanchester, and Ernest Borgnine. And naturally, I have a trailer for Willard.
This is Willard, and these are his friends, Ben and Socrates.
I'm gonna have a big surprise tomorrow.
Willard takes good care of them,
What's that in your pocket? There's something in your pocket.
and they will do anything for Willard.
Walter, please, Walter, there's something outside the door.
My God, look at the rats. You made me hate myself. Well, I like myself now.
There's a bit of the trailer for Willard. Well worth seeing, folks. If you haven't seen it, it is on Tubi, as well as the follow-up 1972 film Ben. After I saw Ben, I got a pet rat. Oh yes, I got a pet rat, all right. And I called him Ratso. But unlike Ben, he hardly killed. I mean, he didn't kill anybody. And now we're heading back across the pond for a couple of films, including Five Dolls for an August Moon from 1970, directed by the one and only Mario Bava. Now, one thing I do love as well about this film, which is bizarre, and of course it's visually very interesting, as Mario Bava always is. I wouldn't call it one of his best films by any stretch, but it's got moments, let's put it that way. I love the poster. And of course, that's why I use part of the poster in the thumbnail. An industrialist invites his friends to his private island to exploit a resin formula, but a killer within the group disrupts the proceedings. Next up, oh yes, it's 1971's Lust for a Vampire, starring that Swedish blonde scream queen, Ute Stensgaard. 40 years to the day since the last manifestation of their dreaded vampirism, the Karnstein heirs use the blood of an innocent to bring forth evil. It was directed by Jimmy Sangster, who was involved with a lot of great Hammer films back in the day. And here's a trailer snippet from Lust for a Vampire.
If the very thought of vampires makes your flesh creep.
We call them the undead, sir. They're vampires.
If you think all vampires are ugly creatures of the night, then you're in for a shattering surprise.
I love that freeze frame. Lust for a Vampire. And that was the lovely and luscious Ute Stensgaard, the blonde bombshell from Sweden. If you like your vampires steamy and sexy, you gotta see Lust for a Vampire, currently playing on Tubi. Next up, we go back to the States and TV horror films. Oh yeah, we've got Gargoyles from 1972, starring Cornell Wilde, Jennifer Salt, Bernie Casey, who is fantastic as the lead gargoyle. An anthropologist and his daughter stumble upon a colony of gargoyles in the southwestern United States who want to be left alone. Of the 1970s made-for-TV films, it's way up there. It could be easily in the top 10. And Gargoyles is well worth seeing, folks. I remember seeing it as a kid when it came out. It's one of those films you don't forget. Next up, we have Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde from 1971. As it says, when a Victorian scientist uses female hormones to create life-extending serum, the elixir transforms him into a sensuous murderess. Starring Ralph Bates and that Fine. 1970s Scream Queen, Martine Beswick. Boy, if you ever get a chance and you can find it, check out Martine Beswick in what I believe to be Oliver Stone's first film. Oliver Stone started out making horror films, and I believe his first feature film was a film called Seizure, and that was starring Martine Beswick and Hervé Villechaize. Next up, we got Count Dracula, starring Christopher Lee. Now, this is the 1970 film. Indelible performances, lush locations, and sinister sensuality mark what may be the most faithful film adaptation of Bram Stoker's vampire classic. Starring Christopher Lee, Klaus Kinski, Herbert Lom, directed by Jess Franco. It's been a while since I've seen this film. I'm going to have to watch it again. But when I read the description and they're calling it what could be the most faithful film adaptation of Bram Stoker's Dracula, well, that makes me want to watch it again. So it's on my list. I'm going to watch it this week and see how it stacks up to the other adaptations of Stoker's classic novel. Next up, you'll definitely want to see this one. You got to see it. It's Mark of the Devil, folks. 1970. Love that key art, too. That is really well done. A witch hunter's apprentice has second thoughts after getting some unsettling on-the-job training in a superstitious 17th century Austrian hamlet. Starring Herbert Lom. God, Herbert Lom is just freaking everywhere. Starring Herbert Lom, Udo Kier, Reggie Nalder, also in this. He's just a great baddie. Mark of the Devil is one hell of a film, pun intended. That I've got one of the original barf bags, vomit bags, that they issued in the cinemas when you went to see Mark of the Devil. In case you missed it at the beginning, as it says here, this vomit bag and the price of admission will enable you to see Mark of the Devil, positively the most horrifying film ever made. And I have a short trailer for you.
Stop that witch! I accuse you of having trampled on the cross, of having ridden to the Sabbath, and thrown the holy cross of our Savior to the Lord, so that the skies grew dark, and the rain fell upon the earth.
No, look at his face, he is the devil!
Confess, save your soul.
I have nothing to confess.
Then you must die.
There you go. That's just a snippet of the trailer, folks, from Mark of the Devil. Highly recommended. Next up, we have Scream and Scream Again. God, this is another great one from 1970. The description. A vampiric serial killer terrorizes London. A mad scientist conducts mysterious experiments, and a spy wreaks havoc in this outlandish thriller. And indeed, it is outlandish. And definitely worth seeing. This is one that's worth a few viewings. There is no doubt about that. It's one of those out of left field films that you got to see to appreciate. It's really quite good. Look at the lineup. The cast is quite superb. You have Vincent Price, Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing, Michael Gothard, Christopher Matthews. A fantastic lineup. Great film, highly recommended. Scream and Scream Again. And that brings us back to the States and The Devil's Reign, 1975. Oh. When a cult leader is burnt alive by the local church, he vows to return and enslave the souls of the congregation's heirs in a pact with Satan. Starring Ernest Borgnine, William Shatner, Tom Skerritt, John Travolta. Directed by Robert Fust. Devil's Reign is probably a film I caught at the drive-in. The makeup effects obviously are excellent, in my opinion. I think the acting overall is quite good. Ida Lupino is also in this film. And it's interesting because the way that Devil's Reign starts out is that it just jumps right into the action. I mean, things are already happening. Chaos is already ongoing when the film starts, which is rather unusual. And I do have a bit of a trailer for The Devil's Reign for you now.
There have been films about earthquakes, airplane disasters, and blazing infernos, but there has never been anything like The Devil's Reign.
His face.
That wasn't your father.
Was his face.
Mother? Mother! Corners! Damn you!
They had no faces.
The Devil's Reign. The 300-year search for the power to damn mankind is over.
Fools!
And the towering terror of the devil on earth is now unleashed.
Burn!
Burn, 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 burn. The Devil's Reign. Hundreds of souls held captive in an eternity of hell.
Seize him!
Possessed by the devil.
You, my son, have defiled all that is holy.
Mother, my God, my God!
They become his worshippers and his demons.
That's a bit of the trailer for The Devil's Reign. Highly recommended. And last but not least, Messiah of Evil. 1974. What a movie. Now, this film is, I think, one of the best Lovecraftian movies I've ever seen. It's strange. It's compelling. It's creepy. Messiah of Evil has that Shadow over Innsmouth vibe to it. No doubt about that. Highly recommended. After receiving unsettling letters from her artist father, a woman travels to a seaside California town to find it governed by a strange undead cult. This is a low-budget film from the 70s, and they put every dollar on the screen. There is no doubt about that. Highly recommended, and naturally, I have a trailer for Messiah of Evil.
They say that nightmares are dreams perverted.
There you go, folks. Messiah of Evil, 1974. Highly recommended. And that ends part one of our look at 1970s sci-fi, horror, and exploitation films. As I said in the beginning, we're definitely looking at least 4 more parts. As you can see tonight, we didn't even cover any science fiction films from the 70s. And that's definitely 2 parts unto itself. So we've got an easy 4 more parts. So get ready for several weeks of 1970s madness here on the Horror Mike Show. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, please like and subscribe. Thank you.